An election observer, YIAGA Africa, has been making its position known on the controversy that engulfed the supplementary governorship elections in Adamawa State, which belatedly rounded off last night with the declaration of Governor Amadou Fintiri of the People's Democratic Party as the winner and therefore duly re-elected. The organization condemned the sporadic attacks on the Independent Electoral Commission's national commissioners during the exercise. And in a statement, YIAGA Africa's executive director, Samsoni Todo, said that Adamawa State Residential Electoral Commissioner Hudu Yunusa Ari's declaration of the All Progressives Congress governorship candidate Aisha Binani as governor-elect midway into the exercise is illegal and inimical to democracy. Well, Paul James is YIAGA Africa's national director, and he joins us now for a breakdown of that report. Good to have you with us on Newsday. Thank you for joining the program.
Thank you for the invitation.
So could you give us your own take on what played out in Adamawa State in the last couple of days, especially with INEC now coming out to make quite a few proclamations? It almost seems like they're looking heroic by stopping the brazen shenanigans of the wreck from Adamawa State. Can you just tell us in your own words what your take on it was?
Okay, I think first it's not just to commend INEC here, but also the security forces, especially the Inspector General of Police, and also INEC itself, like you had mentioned, for trying to, I mean the court as well, for trying to right whatever was supposed to be the wrong with the election that was conducted in Adamawa State. That was supposed to be a supplementary election to conclude a process that started on March 18th. For us at YIAGA Africa, we deployed observers to all of the 69 locations where INEC had conducted the supplementary election. Additionally, we also had an observer that was stationed at the State Collation Center. So largely, the process went well at the polling unit level. The only thing that we thought was a challenge at the polling unit was the fact that there was late commencement of polls across several polling units. Other than that, INEC deployed the beavers in all locations. The beavers functioned optimally. At some point during the collation of the results at the polling unit, our observers were denied access in about 7 locations in Newman by security agencies. But then again, what we saw was that in all of these locations, party agents for the 2 major parties, the PDP and the APC, were observed or cited at those polling units. And then in all of these locations, they also signed and accepted the outcome of the election. What became a problem was on Saturday evening when I received a call from our coordinator in Adamawa that directed our attention to the fact that the INEC Resident Electoral Commissioner in the state had moved the collation first from the INEC designated location to a location they call Dugeri in Adamawa State. So that was the first thing that even happened on the eve of, on Saturday just after the election. So the National Commissioner stepped in and requested that that should be returned to the original location where INEC had allocated, where INEC had designated for the collation of results. By the time they got back to that location, it was around time for breaking of fast, and they decided that the collation be continued at 9 p.m. They resumed at 9 p.m. and were only able to collate for 10 local governments. So we got the results for the 10 local governments as declared by INEC on the night of the election, that is on April the 15th. Now, the big problem started on Sunday morning by 9 a.m. I also got the call again from the coordinator who mentioned that the Resident Electoral Commissioner was just about to commit an illegality, was about to make a declaration. So he came in cahoot with some security top leadership of the security, I guess the commissioner of police in the state, and make the announcement. That is, even without allowing the process to be concluded. They had told the people of Adamawa that they were going to resume collation at 11 in the morning. But the criminally minded resident electoral commissioner decided to come earlier than the originally scheduled time to make that declaration. So we first issued out a statement on Sunday to condemn the process and to call for the arrest of the resident electoral commissioner, because we thought what he did was in contravention of the section 64 and 65 of the Electoral Act, and also section 25 of the Act that 25 mandates INEC to appoint a returning officer. 64-65 gives INEC, the returning officer the permission or the authority to make returns from an election. So we thought what the reg did was in contravention of that, and it was an illegality that INEC needed to reverse. And so we also appreciated the swift response by INEC on Sunday for nullifying that process and then calling the officials to Abuja to review the process. Now, that problem didn't start that day. As far as we know, at YIAGA Africa, before the election, if you recall, we have issued out what we call election manipulation risk index, where we came up with about 6 variables of what we thought politicians could explore to manipulate the election. One of these was INEC capture. One of these was about the status of the voter register. One was about voter suppression. One was also about history of election manipulation. And then it was sad to mention that the Adamawa State featured in all of the 3 iteration reports that YIAGA Africa released. In fact, just before the state election on March 18, we released the 3rd report. Of the 27 states that we thought are high risk, Adamawa also featured prominently. And before this supplementary, there were calls for INEC to temporarily suspend the reg based on some antecedents that people saw in the state. I mean, if INEC could do that for Sokoto State before the election on March 18 by suspending the reg, and they did the same also in Abia State by suspending the reg, why wouldn't they have suspended the reg in Adamawa State if people are raising eyebrows about whether or not he is going to be professional in the way and manner that he discharges his duty for the election? But again, we appreciate the swift response on the part of INEC and also the intervention of the Inspector General of Police decided to move the Commissioner of Police from Gombe to go and superintend the conclusion of the process in Adamawa State. But most importantly also for the court for standing firm here to ensure that democracy thrives this time around.
Very good, Paul. Now, I would like your thoughts on Senator Aisha Dahiru or Benani's acceptance speech before all collated results have been confirmed and announced. What is the implication of her actions? Do you think she should be sanctioned on account of what happened? And of course, the REC's, scenario as well.
Well, I think if you read through all of the things that happened on Sunday, this was well orchestrated, well crafted, because just moment after the illegal declaration by the reg, she went on the other hand and also issued her own acceptance speech. Of course, you can't build anything on illegality. She knew in her mind, in her heart, that process was not concluded because there were still about 10 local governments that were yet to be collected, that were yet to be declared. So in the first place, it is even an illegality. I know all of us desire to see a day that we could have a female governor in Nigeria, but I don't think this is the way to go about it. She should have allowed the process to go to its logical conclusion first, then she can take it up maybe with the election tribunal, because, we saw even when she went to seek an ex parte motion to stop the process, of course, the court threw that out because in the first place, like I said, it's an illegality, and you cannot build anything on illegality.
And it's a wonder how this will affect her own political career going forth. Like you said, it is quite unfortunate because we were waiting for a female governor to assume the office legally and without controversy. I want to speak about the wreck. Obviously, he's going to be dealt with. I think even YIAGA Africa has called for him to be prosecuted further. But in terms of the way the country goes about selecting its INEC commissioners, is there a need to readdress and reform the way that they are picked in the first place to make sure that the content of their character is not viable or manipulated in one way or another?
Thank you. I think this is a very important question in this conversation. In the first instance, I thought the biggest problem for the 2023 election was in the way and manner the president managed recruitment into INEC. This is also exclusive preserve of the president as we have in the Constitution. These appointments were made, if you recall, that was sometimes in 2020, around July, August, the president sent a list of 19 people that he had nominated to be confirmed by the Senate. Civil society then raised eyebrows about certain appointments because we thought some of them has questionable characters. Some of them are affiliated to political parties. In fact, the commissioner nominee for Sokoto State had once contested the election under the APC in 2015. There was also concern about the commissioner that was nominated for Abia State. We saw what happened after that. The one that was deployed to the Sokoto commissioner was deployed to Jigawa State, and we saw how the people of Jigawa reacted to that appointment. Now, I mean, of course, for any party that is in power that also has that magic, I mean, that also has the opportunity of making such appointment, they also always want to go with what they thought would serve the best interests of the party. So the appointment first was done late, about barely 5 months or so to the election. Some of these persons are inexperienced as far as election administration is concerned. Some of these had no opportunity to even understudy how elections are conducted in other states. I thought this would have been done earlier than that, so that some of these that were appointed could be part of the election that we had in Ekiti State, in Osun State, so they could learn their election administration from there, perhaps take it up to whichever state that they are deployed to. For INEC National, what it does is, when these commissioners are confirmed, what INEC National does is to deploy them to the state. But I thought the moment they saw the signs with the complaints coming from Adamawa State, that INEC should have acted swiftly and then removed the commissioner just like they had done in other states. But what INEC did instead was to move the ICT director from Adamawa State. I thought the problem for me was, one, from the appointment, two, also from the way INEC had managed the process. I thought that INEC could have done better even before we get into all, this challenge. And I'm sure if we dig further, we'll realize that there are a lot of issues about the man in question that people may have flagged in the past that we didn't pay attention to. Perhaps with lessons learned from here, moving forward, what needs to happen, I think we should go back and revisit the concerns around appointment, and that has to also, that may, as part of reform, a consideration for a constitutional alteration, the constitutional review there, that perhaps may see how we can, maybe, if you recall, in 2008 rather, when the late President YIAGA set up the Justice Waste Committee, that committee came up with a recommendation to set up a judicial panel, JNC, judicial panel, yes, that will be making nomination for INEC Rex and the INEC chair as well. But I think in this case, with all of the things that we have seen from our courts especially, I wouldn't say we should just throw it completely to the courts. If there will be a consideration for a committee like this, it should be a committee of eminent Nigerians drawn from different backgrounds, maybe from the CSOs, the academia, all of the, I mean, every part of the stakeholders in the country should be represented on this committee. What will this committee do? Make recommendations for the president. Before they make the recommendation, maybe subject the names of these people to be recommended for public scrutiny. After that, you refer the names to the president. The president will then pick from these and then send to the Senate for confirmation. I think if we institute all of these checks, perhaps the people will know that, I mean, after going through all of those rigorous process, they will know that they will have Nigerians to face if anything will happen, untoward will happen.
Very good, Paul. Definitely, there should be stronger scrutiny on RECs deployed to other regions in view of the sensitive nature of their assignments. Now, beyond that, in terms of electoral reform generally, specifically, which areas do you think need urgent attention going into other elections soon? I'd like you to do this briefly, please.
I think we have to go back to even the Electoral Act itself, because it was some opportunity on the Electoral Act that they exploited in Adamawa State. I think that euphoria of having a new act, we didn't really pay attention to certain elements of the act. They made the announcement on the strength of Section 149 of the Electoral Act that stipulates that once a return is made by an INEC official, only the court can reverse that. But of course, INEC also relied on the other section of the Act that gives it power to review elections that are declared under questionable circumstances. So we need to just tighten some loose end on the Act, especially also the part that thought gives INEC too much of discretionary power. INEC will, and all of that. All of this, I mean, we need to go back and see how we could reduce some of this use of discretion. And most importantly, also, the part that I thought we didn't pay attention to, even when you go back to even the Section 65, for instance, only INEC can review. I think the public also need to take a part in that if we see things that we thought shouldn't be, we should bring the attention of INEC to it so that INEC can do the review.
Well, Paul James, YIAGA Africa National Coordinator, thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.